Hi everyone, my name's Terry McLeod. I work in the membership team at the Co-op. Thank you all for joining our Fizz and Rosé wine event tonight. Should be pretty good. On the call tonight we have we've got Mike Miller, who's the business development manager at Zoning 1821. He's going to be talking to us about our Co-op Irresistible Prosecco and Co-op Irresistible Prosecco Rosé. We've also got Eric Monnin and Guillaume Letang from Boutinot, who will be talking about our Coeur de Cardelline Rosé. And we've also got Sarah Benson, our resident wine expert and wine buyer from the Co-op here as well. And we've also got Mark and Claire from our team. They're going to be in the chat helping you out with anything that you might need in terms of working Zoom or anything like that. So I am just going to, I'm going to share my screen so you can see some slides. I'll be 2 seconds. Well, so hopefully you can all see that. So welcome everyone. Well, so we've done a few of these events now over the past year or so. And our last one, it was a Malbec event. And at the end of it, we sent out some feedback to our members. What they thought of it, is there any ways we can improve it? What do you like about it, etc. And there were some things that we tried to incorporate into this event that we learned from the last one. So one of the ones which I hope you've all seen is clearer joining instructions. So the email that went out should have hopefully given you a better idea of what to expect before you joined. Also, Fizz and Rosé did come out quite high on other products that members wanted to have these events about. So that's why we've got the Fizz and Rosé tonight. Some clearer instructions on using Zoom. So I'll be going through a few tips in a few minutes. A longer event as well. So you'll see that we usually put these events in for an hour, but we've added an extra half an hour on this one. But we will be doing like a soft close at 8 o'clock if you do need to leave. It'll just be the Q&A will run over a bit longer for an extra half an hour because we never seem to get through all the questions. And then, yeah, the one that the last one was not to change too much about it. Members really do like these events, and we don't want to change it too much and turn it into something else. Brilliant. So I'm just going to run through the running order for tonight then. So first up, we're going to have the Co-op Irresistible Prosecco and the Co-op Irresistible Rosé, Prosecco Rosé, sorry. Then it's the Coeur de Cardelline Rosé. And that's when Sarah's going to come on and talk about a new Co-op Rosé, where we've got some poll questions for you all to help look at a new product for 2022. Then it's over to you guys for the Q&A. So based on what we've heard from the first 3 parts, any questions that you've got for our panel, for anyone who's here, any questions that you want. So I'll come on to questions in a few minutes. Then there is a prize draw at 8 o'clock. So 4 people who are on the call at 4 o'clock will be winning one of each bottle that are featured here tonight as well. Then we'll carry on with the Q&A, and then we will be closing the event about 8:30. So just a couple of things on using Zoom then. There is a chat function where you can write your questions or any questions that you have about how to do something or what's happening, or any questions that you want to ask the panel as well. And then when we get to the Q&A, I will read those out. To use the chat function, so it's different on every device, so it's hard for me to tell you whereabouts on your screen it is going to be. But if you do want to hide the chat, you should just be able to click the chat button and it should minimize, and then if you click it again, it should open again. So if the chat is distracting, you should be able to get rid of it. Also, there's different views as well, so hopefully now your screen is filled with this slide, which says running order. If that's not the case, if you've got like loads of different cameras on that you can see, there is a button somewhere on your screen that'll say view, and you can click it and it'll change between presenter view and gallery view. So hopefully that'll help you get the best experience for how you'd rather view the event. So if you want to ask a question in person when we get to the Q&A, you can do this in person as well by, if you click on participants somewhere on your screen, there is a hands up option, which will bump you to the top of the participation list. So we can then ask you to unmute and then you can ask your question. But we do ask you to save that until the Q&A bit. But you can write any other questions at any other point. And Mark and Claire in the chat will be there to help you with anything that you need. Brilliant. So now that I've waffled on for about 5 minutes, we're going to pass on for the first part. So this is, I'm going to invite Mike Miller to come on and talk about our Co-op Irresistible Prosecco and our Co-op Irresistible Prosecco Rosé.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody at least. And thank you for taking the time to join in this evening. My name is Mike Miller, as Terry says. I work with Zonin, who's an Italian winemaker. I'm actually based in the UK, and you can probably tell from my accent, it's a bit more Balham than Bergamo, but there we are. I certainly have spent a lot of time working in the wine industry, and hopefully I can take you through some of the more interesting facts about the two Proseccos that are available in Co-op at the moment on the Irresistible range. Yeah, so if we could move on. Okay, so as I said, I work with Zonin. Yeah, the Zonin family has been producing wine for 200 years. Hence, as Terry said, the company name is Zonin 1821. So that's 200 years this year. So what a year to have an anniversary, I guess. But yeah, we're certainly very proud of our heritage. But at the same time, we're trying to keep up with new trends. There are three brothers who own the Zonin family, 7 generations of winemakers and 12 estates. So not just Prosecco, but also other wines from the south of Italy, from Sicily, as well as Tuscany. So yeah, but specifically about the Prosecco that we exclusively produce for Co-op. I'll just tell you a little bit more about where Prosecco comes from. I know you said Fizz, but I think we're definitely talking about Prosecco on this particular in this particular call. So this is probably the most detailed slide of the lot. So don't worry too much if I'm not going to be sort of boring you with too many facts and figures. Prosecco is it's got to be produced in a particular region. So you can see on the left there that's the whole of Italy, with Sicily at the bottom and Sardinia. In the top right, in the northeast, you have 2 sort of regions there called Veneto, which is obviously near Venice, and then Friuli Venezia Giulia, which is a bit further east. So the region within which Prosecco has to come is that area there. So from the west, it's sort of Vicenza, not quite Verona, but Vicenza, stretching all the way across past Venice, all the way through to Udine, and right in the far east, that is the Slovakian border. So actually, Prosecco was, these borders are relatively recent. Prosecco has been known about as a as a wine from this area since the mid 1700s. So that's a lot of history there. Yeah, so it's from Vicenza to Slovakia, really. In the bottom right-hand corner, just where you see Trieste, there is a village called Prosecco, which has given that's where the first Proseccos were grown, and that obviously gave the name to the wine. The wine itself has evolved over the years. It used to be a bit sweeter, and it was only more recently in sort of the latter half of the 20th century that they made a sort of drier style that you know today. The other details on that map, if you see the yellow area there, that is a sort of more specific area right in the middle of the Prosecco area, which is the DOCG. So when you see DOC, like you see on the label here, it's a guarantee that what the wine in the bottle is, it's a control basically that it's from this area and it's made in a certain way. So it is definitely Prosecco. That's why they put a seal over there. And then the next level up in terms of quality is a DOCG, which is from that smaller section within the middle of the map. In terms of Prosecco in the UK, we actually drink about 1/3 of all the Prosecco produced within this region. So it's it's a popular wine, a popular style. There's 450 million bottles produced annually. So yeah, we do about a third of those in the UK. So hopefully some of those go through the Co-op and some of those go through the Irresistible Co-op range. So there we are. If we get a bit more specific about the Irresistible range and just where it's from specifically, if you look at that map, just under the word Giulia, yeah, on the right side, there's a place called Udine, which is yeah, just there. And then so just south of that is where the grapes are grown for the Proseccos that are the Co-op Irresistible range. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the vineyards. These are the actual vineyards where this Prosecco is grown. These sit between the Adriatic Sea and the Alps. So there's actually quite a lot of cooling winds going one way or the other, either from the sea or from the mountains, which means that you produce a relatively light wine. If it's very sunny and there's no wind and it's very warm, you can get a much heavier grape, much riper grape style. Whereas these have got a nice cooling climate behind them. Also, the soil is rich in nutrients. It used to be at times it's like a floodplain, so it had been underwater at times, so it drew some of those nutrients out. But it's mainly sort of clay and sand. And just if you can see on that picture on the right hand side, you've got these cypress trees, and this particular estate on that run up to the estate has 999 of these cypress trees. So it's a pretty lovely place to visit as well. In total in Prosecco there are 350 producers of Prosecco. So there's a lot to choose from. But as I say, the wines that we're gonna look at today are exclusively produced for the Co-op from this estate. I'm just going to go a little bit more into the details of what Prosecco is and how it differs from some of the other fizzes that you may see on the shelves. So if we could just have a look at the next slide. The key grape variety within Prosecco is called the Glera. You can see that on the left there. Historically, that has been the only grape you can use for Prosecco, and it's only really in the last year or so that we've been able to produce a rosé Prosecco as well. In the past, you've had Italian sparkling wines that are rosé, as in pink, but this is the first really this year that we've been able to produce rosé wines. So normally it's with just the Glera grape. Prosecco has to be 85% at least of the Glera grape. Most of them are 100% of the Glera grape. Glera used to be called Prosecco grape, but in 2009 the Italian government changed this so that they could make sure that it's only produced from Glera in the Prosecco region. Without going into too much detail, hopefully that makes some sense. In terms of the rosé Prosecco that we have from Co-op, this has got 85% of the Glera grape, so that would be basically a white style Prosecco, and then 15% would be Pinot Nero, which is also grown on the estate, 15% which is made into red wine, and then they are blended and you get this lovely attractive pink color for the rosé. But as I say, the Pinot Nero is the same as Pinot Noir. It's literally a language difference in terms of the actual grapes. So that's where we are in terms of those are the two grapes involved. We also had a question sort of beforehand, if we can move on to the next slide, just about the difference between Prosecco and Champagne, apart from the price, but it all comes down to why the price is different, I suggest. So with Champagne, so for both of these wines, the first winemaking is done in a wine vat, and you make a quite low strength wine. With Champagne, You then put that wine into this isn't champagne, but you put it into a bottle with some extra sugar and some yeast, and then you close it with a cap. And then there is a second fermentation, which is in the bottle for champagne. And the second fermentation basically means that the sugar and yeast convert into alcohol and CO2. So carbon dioxide, so bubbles basically. And all of that is kept within the bottle. So when you say champagne method, it's literally, as you can, hope you can see, it's quite a dim picture, but hopefully you can see that those are all bottles that are sort of stored in a rack. And they will have they'll be having that second fermentation in a sealed bottle. So the CO2 stays in the wine and the sugar turns into alcohol, so that comes up to the level of alcohol. With Prosecco, the first winemaking is exactly the same. You squeeze the grapes, you let them ferment on the yeasts, and it gets to a certain point. And then rather than going into an individual bottle, as you can see from the picture, they then put that wine into large tanks, very large tanks in the case of the picture there. But they still then add the sugar and yeast. So you still have the secondary fermentation, but it is done in a large tank, as in, sort of millions of liters, as opposed to an individual bottle. So what does that mean? That means that you have a fresher wine. With the champagne, it ages at least sort of 18 months and sometimes up to 6-7 years, and it ages in the bottle with the yeast. So it's got a much more biscuity, toasty character. With Prosecco, it's in a much larger tank. The yeast fall to the bottom. It's all done in the space of a few months. And so you get a much fresher wine that's very much designed to be bottled and drunk much more immediately. So more approachable. And as you can probably work out, the cost of doing the bottle versus the tank does affect the price as well. So I'm not against champagne. I have worked for champagne companies in the past, so I'm not. These are the differences. They're both fun fizz. So yeah, whichever way works for you. But that's really the difference between the two. Okay, I'm getting a little bit thirsty now, so I thought maybe, I don't know whether you have the wine in front of you, but I will just take you through. Some people I know are a little bit. Can be a little bit apprehensive about opening a bottle of sparkling wine. So just to start with, just to make sure that you're happy with that, I will just take you through, and I don't want to patronize at all, but hopefully I'll just make it nice and easy. The key thing with a sparkling wine is that it's cold and that it hasn't been shaken around. So I know we've all seen the Grand Prix drivers doing what they do, but for it to be any sort of danger of popping without you in control of it, it will be either warm wine, and/or it will have been, if it's been rolling around in the boot of the car or something, that will definitely make it much more volatile. So if it's been in the fridge and it's cold, then you shouldn't need to worry too much about it sort of exploding. Not exploding, just popping open. So just on the Irresistible Co-op Prosecco, you have a little gold tab here, which you very easily just pull around, and then you have a nice tidy removal there. You then have an aluminium cap here and a cage, and there's a little tab here that you pull out. Now you twist it 6 times. And then I'm glad it's 6 times, always a risk. Then that comes off nice and easily. At this point, even if it is cold and it's still good to keep your thumb just on there, just in case. The final thing is to open it. I would always open it slightly tilted, because just means the surface area here is not just the 2 centimeters, it's maybe 4 centimeters. So that makes quite a lot of difference in terms of when the bubbles do come up. So you grab, with whichever is your sort of stronger hand, you grab the cork and you twist the bottle with your other hand. So I'm not moving my right hand, I'm moving my left hand just to twist it. and you should feel it coming out. And if you want to really show off, you just give it a little sigh. So again, this is always exciting to do live. So there we go. So that means you keep all your Prosecco ready to be enjoyed. Yeah, there we go. And then to pour a clean glass. Sometimes if you've got a lot of rinse aid in your dishwasher and it stays on the inside of the glass, you can pour a sparkling wine in and it will it won't bubble. And that's normally down to some sort of a soap or rinse aid or something like that that's been sort of overdone in the glass. So you pour it with the glass at an angle, probably a bit just to start, just to sort of make sure that it's settled, and then you can pour it up. Okay. I wouldn't fill it too much. Got a picture of myself now. I think I prefer the slides, but there we are. Yeah, and then just so it's got nice bubbles, a lot of bubbles coming from the middle on here, which is always a good sign. To be honest, with champagne, you'd probably see a few more finer bubbles because it's aged longer under pressure, but this is still it's got a nice mousse and a lot of bubbles. As I say, if you've got soap in the glass, sometimes that can suppress it. And then without being too much of a wine snob, sort of sniffing and spitting, I'll just give it have a look at it, make sure it's clear. If it's clear, that's good. I'm sure the other people have told you this in other tastings. Then quick sniff. So it's a nice fresh smell. It doesn't smell of cork or anything like that. It smells of apples and white flowers, I would say. And then, I mean, enjoy. So again, nice mousse. It's dry. Is it as dry as champagne? I think not quite as dry as champagne. There are different levels of dryness in all Fizz, which are based on the grams of sugar per litre. So with a brut Prosecco such as this, so on the front label you have a brut, certainly on the back label we have brut. A brut is between 7 and 12 grams of sugar per litre. So that's brut. So that is a dry style. So you won't get a lot of sweetness, but you'll get a little bit, more than you would with a champagne. With this is the difficult bit to explain. Extra dry is sweeter than brut. So even though it's called extra dry, that is more like 12 to 15, 16 grams of sugar per litre. And then you have dry, which is sweeter than that again. So in terms of sweetness, the sweetest is dry. The next one down is extra dry, and then you get to brut. If you're talking about champagne, you then get extra brut, ultra brut, so hardly any sugar at all. But within Prosecco, if the brut style that Co-op have selected is a little bit drier, and it doesn't make a big difference, but it's a little bit drier than an extra dry style. That's the style that Co-op have selected for the Irresistible Prosecco. It feels a bit strange doing a tasting of two wines on your own in an office, but I guess I'll just do that again very quickly. So the rosé is slightly different in terms of taste, so I will go through that with you. Again, you've got a tab here which makes the opening particularly. My fingernails have gone to jelly, but that makes just a nice. When you're serving at a party or something, it's nice to do that. So again, it's 6 turns. Should get the label on that, right? Yeah. Okay. And then you got that. These are pretty cold, so they've been in the fridge all day. So, and then 45 degrees. Move to the bottom of the bottle and just hold the cork. There's a little bit of a pop, but still, there's hardly any bubbles coming up there at all. So sort of cause and effect in terms of when you might lose some bubbles. So the rosé, like I said, 15% is Pinot Noir. Apart from that, it's the same wine as the previous one. So it's just going to have a little bit more, obviously a lovely, lovely color. When you smell it, it's got some of the same characteristics, but it's also definitely got a bit of berry fruit, red berry fruit, so probably strawberries, and a little bit of, I don't know, sort of creaminess to it as well. So it's also a brut, so it's officially the same sugar as the previous one, but because it's got that red berry fruit, it tastes a little bit sweeter, a little bit more full-bodied. So, cheers. And as I say, Prosecco Rosé has only really been, well, has only legally been available in the last year. Before that, there were sparkling rosés from Italy, but you could never call them officially Prosecco. So this is quite new, really, in terms of that. Price-wise, it's £8 for the brut in the Co-op and £8.50 for the rosé, because the Pinot Noir grapes are a little bit more expensive. In terms of, and if we go back to the slides, there's a couple more slides. So just the next slide. It's just quite a colourful slide. I quite liked it. This is all the stuff. This is all available in Co-op. I checked the other day at the one, and the one near me. All of this. Prosecco is obviously a great aperitivo hour, where the Italians go out and have a little walk, and then go to a bar and have a nice light glass of Prosecco. So in terms of food matching, it's going to be light bites. So antipasti, olives, obviously, bruschetta. It is bruschetta, not bruschetta, which I keep getting reminded by my Italian colleagues. It's got a CH in it, so it means like that. But yeah, I mean, with things like mozzarella, basil, tomato, all this sort of stuff. Also, in terms of the Prosecco itself, I'm sure you've all you're aware of, if you haven't tried an Aperol spritz, that's something we can do. Something a bit more interesting, I would suggest, which is a bit more individual, is you can get some peaches and just puree them up in either a food processor or through a sieve, and then you can put that puree into a glass and add the Prosecco, and you get a lovely Bellini. So you can pretend you're in Venice, in Harry's bar, enjoying that Bellini. So all this stuff is available. Right. Hopefully we have one more slide. This is our marketing manager, Valentina, which is a lovely. So just wanted to say salute e grazie. So cheers and thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to talking more about your any questions, anything at all. As I say, I've been in the wine business a long time, so it doesn't have to be just about what I've spoken about, but anything you think I might be able to talk about more. Because I have a glass of rosé here, I'm quite happy. But for now, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Mike. That was amazing. I always love hearing about Prosecco. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, it's always a favourite at Christmas time for us. Any excuse to get a bottle. And now I'll definitely be, you might be able to see, I've picked up a bottle of our rosé Prosecco. I've not actually tried this one myself yet, so I'm really excited about that one now. Brilliant. Okay, so now we have Guillaume and Eric. So Eric was stuck in traffic before, so I'm not sure if he made it onto the call. Oh, there he is. Of course, he's there now. Brilliant. So Guillaume, over to you to talk about our Coeur de Cardelline Rosé.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
I'm Guillaume, French winemaker.
Eric, head of winemaking for Boutinot.
Tonight we are glad and happy to present you a Coeur de Cardelline Rosé, exclusively crafted for Co-op. So regarding Coeur de Cardelline area, it's not a very well-known area, but it takes part in Rhône Valley area. So it is an AOP rosé wine coming from Rhône Valley, as I said. So we are located in the south of the Rhône Valley, so not far from the sea, roughly half an hour from the Mediterranean Sea. So Rhône Valley, we started with up north, Côte-Rôtie, Saint-Joseph, After that, we have the middle of the heart of the Rhône Valley with all of the Cru, Gigondas, Châteauneuf, Vaqueras, etc. And at the end, in the south of the Rhône Valley, we have the last vineyard is Costières-de-Nîmes area. So we are in the Rhône Valley, so we have a Mediterranean climate, so dominated by a lot of wind coming from the Mistral. You can see the Mistral, it is a strong wind coming from the north. And the other parameters in this region is the sea breeze. As I said, we are not far from the Mediterranean Sea. So we have a huge impact of the wind. So we are on a Mediterranean climate with a cool winter, very warm summer, and low rainfall.
Yeah. And finally, in order to help Guillaume, I'd like to say that the sun in this region is for free. You always have sun. I've just drove back from the Rhône Valley. It was another very good day. Finally, the two winds that Guillaume has mentioned are super key to the result of the grapes we have. I mean, the Mistral always dries the grapes and help the health of the grapes. The sea breeze is not always helping, but it's part of the job. So the two winds finally are probably, if I can say, more important than the sun. And that's why we quite easily obtain such fantastic grapes for the wines.
And it's really take part of the terroir of Costières-de-Nîmes. So if we keep going on terroir, we speak about the soil. The soil is very important, and it is a part of the identity and the personality of the Costières-de-Nîmes Rosé. So you can see on the picture the red clay and the limestone and the red pebble stone. The small stone you can see on the picture. It's important to do the difference between this red pebble stone. I don't know if you can see, it's the same than you see on the picture. It is a small red pebble stone from Costières, and just to compare, it is a big Galet Roulé from Châteauneuf. So you can see the difference of terroir, just so that you have an idea of the differences. So the soil is very important in the particularity of the soil is very important in the wine at the end. Regarding the wine and the grape variety, this blend is composed of 3 grape variety, mainly Grenache. After that, 1/3 of the blend is Syrah, and we finish with a drop and a touch of Cinsault. Grenache for the roundness, for the fruitiness, it give all of the aroma. Syrah, it's more for the spiciness, for the complexity, and we play with a drop of Cinsault just to give another layer of complexity, so some fineness, some delicacy, and some drinkability also in this blend. So a blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault.
So we are typically with the grapes of the Rhône Valley, Grenache, Syrah being the most important, Cinsault a small proportion. So definitely a Grenache blend, and Guillaume will explain more about the winemaking parameters.
So if we keep going with the winemaking process, 2 key parameters for us. It's to work obviously with good vineyard in order to have healthy grapes, and the other key parameters, it is the date of the harvest. We have to pick at the optimum ripeness. On rosé, we are looking for freshness, so a good acidity. So it's very important to pick exactly at the good date, acidity, and not too much alcohol. We are focused on 12.5, maximum 13 degrees alcohol in order to keep the freshness and a fresh aroma. Yeah.
You have to understand that they are the same grapes to make the rosé and the red. 10 years ago, the guys were picking the grapes to make a red, extracting a bit of juice to make rosé. Now the way we select the parcel, the plot of vineyard, and the way Guillaume is orientating the growers is to say, this one will be a rosé plot. This one is the one we are going to train and monitor in order to pick exactly the grapes for rosé. So there's a huge evolution in the way we have been making the rosé over in Costières over the past, I would say, 10 years.
If we speak about the winemaking process, we are dealing with direct press. That means that as soon as the grapes are picked, we put in the press, and we organize a gentle press just to extract the flavor, the aroma, with the least amount of tannin to avoid bitterness and to really focus on the brightness on the aroma. So direct press with very cold and fresh grapes, so that we pick very early in the morning, or sometime during the night with a harvested machine, so that we have very, very cold grapes, and we avoid oxidation. We keep the freshness of the aroma, and it is very important on the rosé. And also in order to have a light and very pink color and beautiful color.
So temperature for us on the grapes is indeed super important, as Guillaume explained. So picking early morning, during the night, sometimes with machine is key. There's no way we start to pick grapes between, I would say, 11 o'clock in the morning up to late afternoon. So that's part of the job.
Yeah.
And the specificity of this wine.
And after that, we have an alcoholic fermentation at low temperature between 16 to 18 degrees, excuse me, as slow as possible, very gentle fermentation. So if we speak about the wine pairing, I would say this wine doesn't need really food. And the paradox is that it is a perfect wine for food also. It's a perfect wine for aperitif on his own by the glass like this. So it's good for aperitif for the first bottle. And as soon as the first bottle is empty, you can start with the second bottle for your starter. It fits perfectly with garlic and olive starter, for example. It's perfect on sushi, on Thai food, or salad. So it could stand up also on a fish. So
yeah, we recommend to pour it absolutely fresh. Yeah. And it's super important to mention that the rosé from Costières de Nîmes have no residual sugar. I mean, we speak about below 2 grams per liter. So it's what we call dry. It's part of the balance of the wine. There's no way we would have a drop of sugar in these wines. Whereas we are not crazy with Guillaume, I must say that some people sometimes add ice cube in the rosé wines, especially when it's too warm. You can do it. We will accept. Yeah.
Yeah, so a perfect summery rosé for us, and it's crafted on this way. In terms of tasting, this wine is very focused on small red berries, raspberries, strawberries, with a touch of citrus and lemony. In terms of color, it's very light. So we organize a lot of work on the press selecting regarding the juice, and the acidity. It's quite we have a good acidity, a big backbone of acidity, and it's quite refreshing. So I hope you enjoy it.
Is there any question, by the way?
Hi guys, we're going to come on to questions in about 10 minutes, I think.
Okay, fine. No
If you do have
problem.
any questions, keep writing them in the chat, and when we get to the Q&A, we'll ask them. So just in terms of these slides, guys, I've got a couple of videos at the end. Do you want me to play those? And maybe you could talk about what we can see in the videos as they're playing.
Yeah,
Let's go.
so you can see on this video the flat plateau of Coeur de Cardelline, and we gave you some winter picture, especially because you can make aware about the soil and this red clay. You can see the soil is very red, especially when you have humidity during the winter, and you can recognize the small pebble stone that we show you previously.
We can see a couple of questions while we are speaking. Can we start to answer them? Because, of course, Coeur de Cardelline is mainly red wines, and that's probably an information we forgot to mention. And it was only red wines at the beginning with a drop of white, if I can say. Nowadays, it's red, rosé, and a little bit of white. And the second photo still highlights this very interesting terroir, which has a little bit, I don't want to do too much of the comparison, but all the stones have a little bit the impact that we have also in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. They take the heat and they keep a bit of dryness also during the night. So it's definitely, we definitely speak about the limestone with a lot of little pebble stone that change the way the grapes can ripe during the season. And this is it, I think.
Maybe you have some video from the cellar. Yeah, you can see a part of the cellar. So we are working with a stainless steel tank. No oak impact, obviously, on rosé. We are very focused on the freshness, on the purity of the aroma. And we after the alcoholic fermentation, we have some aging on lees, and we try to launch the vintage very quickly to keep the maximum of the aroma and the maximum of the brightness of the flavor.
The temperature being a key parameter, so you can see that we speak about stainless steel tank only. There's no oak in the rosé, and we have a double belt in the stainless steel tank in order to control the temperature. So the temperature is a very key parameter for the winemaker when he's doing the fermentation, when he's cooking, if I can say, the fermentation of the grapes.
And by the way, we have beautiful Costia red to taste, obviously, and it's really worth tasting some Costia red also in this area.
Well,
good.
Thanks so much, guys. That was really interesting. I think the vineyard just looks amazing, just seeing all the rows of them, and especially with that, with the soil and the stones as well. I just think it's awesome. I love these events just because I learned so much. It's brilliant. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. So now we are just going to jump over to this one. So Sarah, I'm going to introduce you just to talk about a new Co-op Rosé, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so you'll be able to see Sarah.
Hi everybody, I won't keep you long because I know you've got lots of questions to ask Mike and Guillaume and Eric as well. But as you can probably tell from just looking at your local stores, you'll see that there's lots of rosé around, and it's become a much bigger thing. It's now over 10% of the wine that's consumed in this country is rosé. All the celebrities are getting in on it. You've got people from Bon Jovi, Brad Pitt, Drew Barrymore, Kylie Minogue, they're all coming out with their own celebrity rosés. And we've just been saying internally that it's great that we've got this opportunity to ask you some feedback, because we've realised we don't even have an irresistible rosé at the moment. So I just wanted to ask some questions, and we're just going to do a quick poll. So if you don't have to, but any feedback welcome, just really to get your thoughts on some key questions that we're exploring to get the rosé right for you. So the first one was around when you drink rosé. If you're my colleague Ben, he has it every Friday with pizza without fail, whether it's the middle of December or midsummer. But I know for some of you, you might only buy it in the summer. So just to get a sense of it, is it something now that's all year round, or is it for you something that you just enjoy when the sun's shining?
Like I say, I'm just going to jump in there quickly. So everyone should be able to see a poll on their screen now. There might be a few of you that might not be able to see a poll. When we were doing some events last year for something else, some of the polls weren't showing on certain devices. I'm not sure why, but if you do want to answer the questions and the poll doesn't come up for you, please just feel free to write your answer in the chat, because we are saving it all and we'll just add it to it following the event.
So shall we?
Sorry, go for it. Oh, do you want to answer as well? Hopefully you're drinking rosé all year round.
Go.
There's just 5 very quick questions, and then we've got plenty of questions for you as well. The other question is about colour. I know some people really choose with their eyes, and there's been a big trend. I know, Eric, you can explain about this as well, that people going paler and paler and paler. It's becoming quite trendy, and rosé on Instagram as people are all about what it looks like. But so it'd be interesting to know how important colour is for you, and I think that's the next question. So whether do you deliberately choose rosés because they're paler, or do you like to go for deepest colour rosés, or do you not really mind at all, or looking somewhere in the middle?
I'll just wait till a few more people answer, then I'll share the results, Sarah.
It's okay. Hopefully in the meantime, we can think of plenty more questions for Mike and Eric.
Okay.
And then the next question is how important colour is. So is that the main thing that you're thinking about when you buy rosé, or is it something else? So is it very important to you, or not that important at all? And there's no right and wrong answers. It's entirely just really interesting to get your feedback. It's so useful for us to make sure, hopefully we have the right rosé for you.
Okay, just a few more to answer, and then I'll end this poll. Okay, and then I'll share the results.
Brilliant, thank you. I think the next question, number 4, Terry.
Yeah.
Was just around, are you more likely to buy a rosé that is pale than not pale? So kind of a similar theme again, but.
Well, nearly there. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And finally, last question, what is the most important factor for you when you're choosing a rosé? So is it colour? Is it where it comes from? Is it the shape of the bottle? What the label looks like? Is it more about price? So if you've got a sort of price in mind that you'd want to spend on a bottle of rosé, just really keen to know what is the biggest decision maker for you?
Yeah, if it is something that's not listed there, feel free to put it in the chat. Please do, yeah. I've already seen that apparently we shouldn't get Bon Jovi involved, so there you go. Well, can people see this poll? If you could just let us know in the chat. I can see it on my screen. Oh, brilliant. Oh, it just says closed for polling error, apparently. Yeah, okay, let me try and do this one again. Sorry, I said 0% of people had answered it. So let me end it and let me start that one again. Relaunch. Sorry, everybody. Okay, hopefully this one will work now. Ah, there we go, it's working now. Thank you. And if there's anything that isn't covered there, or you think, oh, the most important thing to me is this bottle, or then happy just put your ideas in the chat. That's great. Thank you. Well, let's wait for a few more to answer. And yeah, that seems to have stopped. So there we go. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody. Well, it'll be really interesting to take that away and have a look at it. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
There is.
Real. Okay, so let's now go on to the Q&A. So as the presentations have been going on, Mark and Claire have been just sending me the questions that we're going to be asking. So I'll just start going through them now. So the first question is, I've not got the name. Oh, actually, I think this question was answered before. I've not got the name of the member, but it says, was there no demand for Rosé Prosecco before, or was it down to DOC control?
It was definitely the latter. I've been asked for Prosecco Rosé for years, but there is an organisation called the Consorzio de Prosecco, basically the Consortium of Prosecco, which is a self-governing body, like all the appellation contrôlés in France, etc. That they dictate what is allowed within that specific area for DOC and DOCG, and up until last year. These are all Prosecco producers that are these people. They had all decided not to do Prosecco Rosé. So I think there was something where the change was that I think they just saw there was an opportunity to do it in a high quality way that's very much to maintain the quality of Prosecco. What you don't want to do is suddenly have a cheaper way of producing it. So yeah, they allowed themselves to do it as a group from about a year ago. Hope that answers the question.
Cheers, thanks, Mike. We've got one here from Mike Shields, who asks, I heard there is a wine called Prosecco, which is made just over the border from Italy. Have you tried this, and is it good? Is that why the Italians are trying to stop them?
Flipping heck, right? Prosecco, yeah. I mean, there's, like I said, you know, over the border in Slovakia, they make wines, and the Prosecco town is literally on that border. So historical borders are sort of, you know, relatively recent in terms of the countries where they made wine in the 1700s. It didn't matter which country that was. I haven't tried Prosecco, if that's the question, but I wouldn't ignore it. You know, ultimately, as the gentleman from France showed, it's about terroir and about where the grapes are grown, and you know, the climate and the soil. So just because it's over a you know, political border, there's no reason why that wouldn't be as good. However, to answer the last part of that question, as I said, the consortium of Prosecco producers is very much Italian and is that area. So yeah, I mean yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Sarah, this one might be one for you. So Paula says, I love the reusable closures that used to be on the fair trade Stormhook Moscato Rosé. I found it kept the fizz in. I felt like it kept the fizz for drink in the bottle over several days, ideal for someone who lives on their own. Recent vintages of traditional cork and cage. Is cost the reason why the reusable caps aren't more widely used on sparkling wines, or is it tradition? I recently found a stainless steel sparkling wine cap, so I don't need to keep the plastic one I had saved. So about reusable plastic.
Yeah, so we actually took the plastic out, the Zork, those closures are called, we took the Zork out and synthetic cork as a move across our range to make sure we had no plastic closures. So we now have screw caps and cork, but we've removed any sort of plastic to reduce, to make our packaging more carbon friendly and recyclable as part of something we're doing across the business to make it better for the environment.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Another question we've had from a few different members would be, should you drink Prosecco in a flute or a wine or a traditional wine glass? Yeah,
I was just thinking. I would say in a flute, simply because number one, well, the stem obviously is pretty similar, but it's about number one, keeping the bubbles, so there's less surface area at the top. This is actually halfway between. This is what I found just in the office. So just today, but yeah, basically there's less surface area at the top for the bubbles to escape, and also whereas if you had like the traditional or the really traditional coupe glass, which is very wide, if you imagine all of that liquid has got a surface area and all the bubbles are coming off all of that, so it will just go flat quicker. That's what I would say. That's the difference. Some flutes have an etching right in the base there, which actually it doesn't make a lot of difference. But the way bubbles work is they appear on any sort of any irregular surfaces. So actually, you get a nice bead of bubbles from the center of the glass in a flute as well. So that's the other thing.
Cheers. Thank you, Mike.
I wouldn't hold it like that, is what I would say, because it warms the glass. You know, keep it by the stem.
Brilliant. So this is a question from Virginia, and it's for Eric and Guillaume. How do you control the temperature in fermentation with the wine?
For me, hello Virginia. The stainless steel have either flags inside, or most often in the one you saw in the photo, they've got a double coating. Can I say that? So a sort of jacket in which you've got very cold water that can circulate. So we produce the cold water, we throw the cold water into this double jacket, and we can exactly control the temperature. So we would start, let's say, at 13 degrees and go up step by step, 14, 15, 16. But the winemaker can definitely monitor that with a little electronic pad on the tank. And this is the first job of the winemaker in the morning and later in the day, I would say at least twice a day, checking the temperature, because the fermentation creates heat, increase the temperature of the juice. So you try to control the temperature in order to avoid the fermentation to be too quick, like slow cooking of meat, for example.
Cheers, thank you. Just a reminder as well, if you'd like to ask your question in person, if you click on the participants button on your screen somewhere and click hands up, we can ask you to unmute yourself and you can ask your question in person if you prefer. But I can carry on reading questions. Sorry, Guillaume, did you want to say something?
No, I wanted to add that the temperature is really a key tool in winemaking, because you can drive and manage your yeast, and yeah, it's a real winemaker tool.
Cheers, thank you. So Stephen and Emma, I can see that you've just raised your hand. So I'm going to ask you to unmute. So on your screen, you should see a little button come up now, and then you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, hi. Regarding the Costière de Nîmes, should that be drunk young? This is a 2020 bottle that I picked up at Co-op. And you often see this type of wine, but only in young in terms of years. So should it be drunk young when it's probably a year, 18 months old?
As I said, we try to change very quickly our vintage, because for us on rosé, we are very focused on the brightness and the youngness of the aroma. For us, the way we craft this rosé, we want very crunchiness in the aroma. We want something very very bright. So yes, we recommend to drink very young.
And that's also why we have a screw cap to jail the flavors and keep the fruit. So when you buy the bottle, just drink it. Don't leave it in the cellar. There's no need.
No problem with that here. Brilliant. Okay, so next question is from Monica, and it's about the rosé. What time of year do you pick the grapes? When's your harvest?
Excuse me, can you repeat?
Oh, yeah, sure. What time of year do you pick the grapes?
Okay. For example, for this vintage, we are just at the beginning. We warm up with just the beginning of the harvest. The optimum ripeness for us is when we reach 12.5 degrees potential alcohol. We focus a lot on the acidity. So generally, we start at the end of August and up to early September, and all of the rosé are picked mid-September.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. So Claire has just reminded me that it's 8 p.m. She's just done the prize draw in the background. So 4 lucky members are going to be winning a bottle of each that have been featured tonight. So the Co-op Irresistible Prosecco, Co-op Irresistible Prosecco Rosé, and the Coeur de Cardelline Rosé. So those lucky winners are Alan Moran, Joyce White, Diane Perez, and John Easy. So congratulations to you four, Alan, Joyce, Diane, and John. We'll be getting in touch early next week to get your bottles sent out to you. It'll be after the bank holiday weekend now. So we are going to carry on for a bit longer, answer some more questions. So if you do have any questions, keep them coming. And yeah, we'll just carry on. But yeah, congratulations.
Terry, I've got a question. Do we have Guillaume and I to deliver the bottles to these people?
If you'd like to. Oh, yeah. Come and personally deliver them if you'd like. Brilliant. Okay, so back to the questions then. So let's have a look. So we've read Paula's, we've had that one. Oh, here we go. So yeah, back to Virginia's question. So Carly asked a question about the Prosecco. What cocktails would you recommend for the Irresistible Prosecco? I know you mentioned the Bellini before. Do you have any more examples or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, sure. So the Bellini is the classic with the peach puree, or as I say, literally you can get a nice ripe peach and just sort of break that up, and that's just as good. You can also use various liqueurs as little sort of bits in the bottom if you like elderflower, you like peach or passion fruit. That's quite a nice one. For something a bit more complex, if you like a Negroni, but the Negroni is in itself, it's very strong. So 3 spirits. You can substitute the gin in a Negroni with Prosecco. It's called a Spagliato, which is like a false Negroni, and that's, you know, you can sort of enjoy that a bit longer than just drinking Negroni. It's delicious, actually. It's really nice. Other than that, I tried one the other day in a place that was actually bizarrely a beach bar in England, but still a beach bar, and they had a rum gria, which was with Prosecco. It was some vermouth, it was some rum, and yeah, a bit of thyme in there. So that was you know, you can use it something for much more sort of a. Yeah, and the other classic is a mimosa, which is classically with orange juice. So like a Bucks Fizz mimosa, but you can actually use any sort of fruit juice you like in terms of that. So, you know, I guess that's some answers in terms of things that you can do with the Prosecco.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Angela and Ali Louisa, and it's about the rosé. So according to the news lately, there was a shortage of grapes this season due to the weather, and also with Brexit. How is this going to affect your stock availability?
So I was in the vineyard this morning. I was late, and I can tell you we've been suffering in all France with the frost, with a bad spring, bad summer, a lot of rain. Coeur de Cardelline has been a bit protected. And what we saw in the vineyard this morning is pretty nice. So I can't believe Costière will have a serious shortage, probably a slightly lower yield in comparison with last year, but nothing to panic for this specific appellation.
Yeah, especially in Rhône Valley, it's not really the case in Burgundy, sadly. Because frost has been very, very strong. So up north and very south around Languedoc-Roussillon area, it will be more challenging than Rhône Valley area in terms of quantity and sometimes quality.
And to answer the second question, it has been tough for us to export wines to you guys, but we've been learning, so Brexit shouldn't be a problem. We'll be able to export.
Absolutely, brilliant. Okay, next question. Again for the rosé is Loriana. Would you say that the rosé has gone up in popularity in recent years? Have you noticed, like, yeah,
like that over the past 10 to 14 years, we haven't seen, I mean, we have always seen the growth of rosé consumption. Just to give you an idea, we needed to turn some vineyards that were orientated to red wine in order to make rosé wines. And we've definitely improved the way we've been making rosé, especially in Coeur de Cardelline, for example, because as we explained during the presentation, at the time, let's say 10 years ago, people were tempted to pick the grapes to make a red and extract a bit of rosé. It's finished. Now you pick the grapes to make a rosé. So yes, rosé is much, much bigger. That's true. That's true in your country. That's true in our country. I mean, in France, the consumption of rosé, especially during the good season, all the year through, but during the good season, is just enormous.
And now, when we speak about rosé, we speak about a real color of wine. We have white, red, and rosé, and it is a real color. And from a winemaking point of view, it's very interesting to craft rosé. And we have improved the winemaking process to have a trendy rosé in terms of aroma, in terms of color. So it's very also interesting for us winemaker to deal with the rosé.
So rosé is the official third color for the wines, definitely.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Okay, so we've got another question here from Leon and Claire. I believe Sarah's answered it in chat, but I was thinking, Sarah, maybe you could answer it on camera as well. This is the what are the carb values of these wines? I have some friends who aim for a lower carb diet, which makes wine choices more tricky.
Yep, wine is actually a good drink to have compared to many spirits, and certainly compared to gin and mixers and those sort of things if you're trying to eat lower carb. Prosecco is good, and as a brut Prosecco, a dry Prosecco, and champagne, they're sort of around 2 grams of carb, whereas a dry rosé is 6. So dry rosé, white, red, 6 grams. But if you have a gin and tonic, you could be having 20 grams of carb. So definitely, they're friendly drinks if you're trying to be low carb.
I didn't know that. Thanks, Sarah. Another excuse for me. Okay, another question we've got is from Michelle, which is, what is the best temperature to drink the rosé? Also, just a reminder for anybody else to get any final questions in. We're kind of coming up to the end of our question list now. So if there is anything else you want to ask, just drop it in chat. Or if there is something that we might have missed that we've not answered yet, just put it in chat. Sorry, sir. Yeah, sorry guys, go on. I'll say that again. What is the best temperature to drink the rosé?
Depend if you are drinking rosé for aperitif or as a food wine. The average temperature, it's 10 degrees. For me, maybe a bit colder as aperitif, for aperitif. The most important is to not to be too cold in order to avoid to kill, I would say, the aroma.
In all the case, keep your bottle in an ice bucket so that it doesn't warm too much.
Okay, another question here from Rob Hastings. Prosecco or Cremant, which do you prefer, Mike?
Question. I know someone pays my wages. So yeah, I understand Cremant is a really I've sold it for, I have sold that before as well, and it's certainly got a good following. It's something I think you can produce in the UK as well, I seem to recall. Certainly a style like that. Personally, so those, like I say, because of the flexibility, and actually the rosé has really sort of reinvigorated my interest and my enjoyment of Prosecco. So yeah, I would have to say the Prosecco. Just, it's low fuss, it's easy, it just opens up, and it's a crowd pleaser. I think the last thing I'd say is, whilst a lot of people think they aim for dry, when you actually taste it, I've done a lot of tastings with the public, and actually that little bit of sweetness, for a lot of people, they do actually prefer that. So I think that's what it gives. It gives that. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't like champagne. I would never dismiss champagne. I certainly wouldn't dismiss Cremant either. It's a difficult one.
Cool. Okay, got a question here from Pauline. Sarah, I think this one's for you. So the Prosecco is in all of our Co-op stores, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. How many stores are going to be carrying the Rosé Prosecco? Do you know?
I think off the top of my head, it's about 700. Does that sound about right to you, Mike? About 750 stores currently, but I believe it's going up in distribution in October. And the same is true of the rosé as well. So at the moment, that's in about 1,200 stores, and that's again increasing in October. And just to comment, I saw that some of you were saying about not being able to find it in your stores. Just to explain some of the context of that, if we get, and we do get a lot of journalist requests, and sometimes they tell us, like they did in this case the day before, that they're going to feature it on Saturday Kitchen, then it can mean that we sell all the wine really quickly, and it takes us 2 or 3 weeks to get more wine in. And just to provide a bit of a context around some of the empty shelves that you might have been seeing, that it's a big challenge at the moment with the pandemic and a shortage of drivers, Brexit paperwork. I know a couple of weeks ago, 20% of containers around the world were tied up in some sort of delay. But rest assured that we're definitely getting a lot more wine in, and Saturday Kitchen will hopefully give us more notice next time. And we're getting it in more stores in October. So hopefully those of you that couldn't find it today can find it again soon.
Thanks, Sarah. So might be worth noting as well, I've got one of the miniature bottles of the Prosecco. So if you don't feel like you want to grab one of the big ones, if you've not tried it before, you were unsure, these small, you can't really see, it's a bit dark in here, isn't it? These small bottles are £3 in store, I believe. And you get like 2 glasses out of these. So those are quite cool as well. Claire H has asked if the Irresistible Prosecco is 100% Glera.
The Irresistible Prosecco Brut is 100% Glera. Yeah, absolutely. As I say, with the rosé is 15% Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir, but yeah, for the Prosecco it is 100% Glera grape, and it's vegan. For those that that's important too. So it is on there. So.
Cheers, Mike. Thank you. Well, okay. So I think we've come to the end of the questions now. So unless anybody has anything else to add in the next minute or so, we'll start to wrap up. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who did attend today. And thanks for all our amazing speakers who've been talking about these incredible wines, and it's made me very thirsty. I've had a great evening myself. I really hope everybody else has as well. Thank you so much for asking all your questions and for staying with us for so long as well. Congratulations to the winners. We will be sending out an email on Tuesday evening next week to everybody who signed up for the event. Another thing that we heard from our feedback before was people would like to see, have copies of the slides and stuff that we've used tonight. And it's also going to have the recording of the event as well. So we're hoping to get that out to everybody on Tuesday evening. It might be Wednesday since it's a bank holiday, but you will get it early next week. So I think that might be it. I'm just going to check if there's any more questions. No, it doesn't look like it. So yeah, we'll keep, yeah, I think that's it then. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll leave the Zoom call on for about another minute or so in case anybody wants to scroll up and grab any links that we might have shared earlier about any of the product pages or anything. And then yeah, we'll close it. We'll close it about 8:16. So yeah, thank you everyone. Hope you have a great night, and hopefully see you at a future event.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Great to talk.